Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, sponsored by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. We've made a gear change, and we're going to meet and talk with the guys from BnR Tackle. And for the very first time, I've got Ryan Weedham here in the studio. This is Brandon's brother. He's the other half of BnR Tackle, and I have not had a chance to interview him, and I'm going to have some fun with that. So first things first, Ryan, it's great to see you.
Owen,
and
it's a
of
pleasure
course,
to be here.
we all know Brandon. We see him everywhere. He's all over the place. He will go anywhere. First things first, I got to ask, why is it taking so long for me to get you on the air? Now, I'm going to ask the other question. Is it because you just never wanted to, or you never offered?
Frankly, Owen, you scare me.
Oh, please. I've never heard.
No, just timing and, yeah. And,
okay.
And frankly, Brandon has been the face of the company. He's done a wonderful job representing us, and I don't feel it right sticking my nose in there where he's doing a great job. Why screw up a good thing?
He's doing a great job. We always need somebody else in there. You're going to do a great job as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you live up in Washington, just like your brother.
Actually, I live in Oregon. I live Eastern Oregon. I live over in the desert.
Okay.
Yeah, my home is right on the Columbia, right below, about 10 miles below McNary Dam.
Very cool. Okay, I made the wrong assumption. Okay, you're in Oregon.
Yep.
So it's a little ways away from where we're standing currently. Yep. So do you get a chance to do a lot of fishing yourself, or?
Yeah, I try. As best I can, not as near as much as I'd like. We do have some pretty good weather to us our winter, but there were some around Steelhead and some of those local rivers we do quite well. Yeah. At times we have a pretty good salmon steelhead up in there, not as good as it used to be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I focus a little bit more on some of the local species. This walleye in particular is very good in that area.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then actually we have a pretty good sturgeon fishery, especially
excellent sturgeon fishery.
Yeah, especially catching reefs like that right now. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Beautiful part of the world. You're a lucky man. You live in one of my favorite places to be. If I could make a living over there, I would probably be your neighbor. Beautiful area.
Yeah, no, it's very nice. Yeah, I enjoy it, especially in February when it's going to rain for 3 more months here, and I'm looking at 70-degree weather. So
yeah, I'm not going to argue that. Although I'm a duck hunter, I gotta have my rain. Although where you are,
there's a couple.
Sorry, my brain is hurting.
There's a couple of ponds on my property, and I get phone calls every year.
We all have to pause for a second. Just chill out. I'm chilling out. Okay, so I got another question for you. Right?
Yes, sir.
So, 10, 11 years ago, when you started BnR, am I close?
15 officially.
15.
Yep.
05, wasn't it?
It's the 15 this year. Yeah.
Well, no, it'll be 18 years is 08 for me. So at the very least, it's been a long time.
Yes.
Right? Yep. When you first came up with the concept of BnR Tackle, I'm trying to get background here. This is what professionals do, and I'm not that, but I'm trying. When he came to you, or did you come to him about starting BnR Tackle?
It was something I'd found, and it was, it was an opportunity, and I was really, my goal was to try and reconnect with Brandon, right? He and I, before I left for college, he and I were pretty close, the bookends in the family, and both loved fishing, and then I disappeared for a while, and I kind of lost contact. And so what I really wanted to do was reconnect with Brandon and try and find something we both enjoyed. And
very cool.
He screwed up and turned it into a real business. It's pretty cool.
Well, the guy's brain never stops. I mean, he's mythical. Anyway, it's a long story. Okay, so it was a combination of the two, right? To reconnect. That's a great story, man. That's awesome. And now you've taken this to be, I mean, dude, you're right there. I mean, I'm very, very lucky, and I will say thank you every morning when I wake up. I'm very fortunate to work with a lot of folks in this industry, right? And you're right there. I mean, you are on all the bookends of all the stores that are out there, come up with some great products that we all use to be successful chasing steelhead. And now you've broken into the 360 world, which is a whole other thing. But you guys have brained up new floats, right?
Yep.
These are all available at Fisherman's right now. You can even find them on their BnR website. We're going to show you that as well if you're not local. But you've got 3 different versions here. And you're already pretty well known for the floats that you've produced and a lot of the different beads and worms, and which is kind of what started it all.
Yep.
But kind of walk us down the line of what we're looking at.
Yeah, so we have 3 families here. These are the HCs, the horizontals. This is the one we probably talked about the most. I think last time I came out, we kind of showed on.
Okay.
These are the FSTs, the fully threaded stem floats, and then these are the hydros.
Okay. Hydros.
Hydros, yes.
And that is just another version of just the slider, or?
Yeah, another version of the free sliding float. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
The general philosophy was, there is, some people like stem floats and some people like the more cigar kind of shaped floats.
Sure.
And generally with the cigar floats, it's more the bait fishing side of things, a little bit more the bait fishing side, where the stem floats is if you're fishing worms or jigs on a sliding float, or a lot of the bead stuff or the bead and spawn sack stuff.
Sure.
A lot of the stem floats work well for that.
A lot of suspended fishing.
Yep.
Where you've called chandeliering,
Yep.
As opposed to dragging, which is more traditional bobber dogging. We could get into that one, but we don't have time for that. These are super interesting. I know that you said there was a way to get them off, so I hopefully didn't break
Perfect.
it. So tell everybody why this is a little bit different and why you have an offset hole here on this particular float. Now, you got large, medium, and small?
Yep.
Okay.
2 colors.
2 colors, so pink and chartreuse?
Bright orange and chartreuse. We're working on pink. We're working on it. I'm about ready to make a custom
Have we
one
had
for
anybody
paint.
call to say if they like the pink yet? Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. But tell everybody why that's offset. What'd that do for us?
So, one of the things about bobber dogging that's always funny is that, when bobber dogging your fish, you're always like this, you're always horizontal to the water column.
Sure.
So having the circumferential paint up here is always a little funny because half the paint is not visible to you while you're fishing.
Right, you can't see it.
So there's 2 challenges here. One is getting the paint on a kind of a horizontal slash so you can see more of the paint so the float's more visible. And then the other thing is making the float so it always rides so that is more visible. And so the hole is off-centered. So whenever you cast, the float always lays like this. So you always have a little tilt, and that's why it's like this, because this line roughly lines up with the water level where you are.
Okay.
So you always have a more visible, kind of highly visible float there.
All right, so you've answered a couple of the questions I hadn't even asked yet, dang it. All right, so let's show that with that Maxima Tech Cam real quick. So like he was just referring to, you got that angled line, which represents, think of your boat, right? When the transom sits down low and you got to get it to the water line, that's what you're seeing. That's what you're able to see while you're bobber dogging. Much more visible. When and where would people use large, medium, or small?
It's mostly a function of your weight, of your bobber dogging weight. And I think that goes to how much velocity you have, and then kind of how heavy you're dragging. Like kind of heavier dragging, like the slower kind of flows, slower, deeper flows. A lot of times you use really lightweight, so you can use the really small to medium ones. And then as you get into faster current or something mud or something where you're really dragging or you're really fishing something heavy, especially when the water gets up, or especially like with the round weights where you really want to drag, then you move up to a larger one.
All right, makes sense. And then I know that you just mentioned round weights. He manufactures the stick weights as well. And I know that there are options, right? You've got the round ones available and you have the stick weights available. I am a huge fan of the stick weights. It has a different feel. There's lots of different ways to bobber dog everyone, not getting sidetracked too much, but there is a way to feel what's going on. And with these weights, you feel everything. It's like the old school when we would go from like a bouncing Betty, and that might even be before your time, and then put on a piece of pencil lead. You went from not really being able to feel it to braille, and you just knew exactly what was going on. So lots of options there. But we got a couple more that we want to talk about. This one, and then of course this guy. I really am interested. Do you like the pink? Okay. I actually really kind of like it. Is that something that I can see at Failing Light, though? We're going to find out when we come back in just a minute with Ryan and Brandon from BnR Tackle.
Outdoor GPS is sponsored by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. And by Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective. Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, sponsored by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. We're joined in the studio by the guys from BnR Tackle. I've got Ryan and Brandon here in the studio talking about some of their newest products. You just learned about their new floats for bobber dogging in particular. That's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to trying that. I have never had a float that actually, well, I mean, it's a long story, but never had a float that actually set itself up to be more visible. So that's going to be a change for me. But then, of course, you got the 2 different versions here. So let's talk about those.
Yeah, so the FST floats, these come both with the orange tops and the pink tops. I know you were asking. And these are 1/4 ounce all the way up to 3/4 ounce. And this is more for your bead fishing, like you're fishing sandalere and spinning beads. These float really close to the level line here, to the water line, really highly visible. And then they have grommets top and bottom, which is important feature, metal grommets top to bottom. And then they are fully stemmed.
Okay.
So meaning there's a stem that runs the entire length of the float. And we really worked on making a larger diameter stem, so it's easier to thread, because I think we all know one of the really difficult things with braided line, especially when your fingers cold, is getting the line through. So the larger diameter we can get in there, the better it is. But that's pretty much the FST line.
Now, tell us about the material on the inside. I mean, there's a lot of floats that are on the market, of course, and obviously there's good, bad, no good, and why'd you spend your money on? What's the difference for BnR when you're talking about material that these things are made of?
So yeah, so the foam, the density of the foam. So these are EVA foam floats. One of the things that you have a choice when you kind of design your float is the density of the foam. And the trade-off here is you make it more dense, you get a little more castability, but it needs to be in a little bit larger diameter because you have to create more buoyancy. But there is kind of this balance where we tried to make them a little more dense, so you do get a little heavier float, so you just get a little more castability out of it, a little more depth. You can cast a little more farther you can reach with your floats.
Which I think most people overlook the fact that when you're fishing with a bobber, you need to be able to cast the darn thing.
Yep.
Aerodynamics, believe it or not, in a float is very, very important. Depending on the style of fishing that you're doing, when we're chasing winter steelhead at times, we're making casts literally up to 50 yards.
Yep.
Depending on if we're on the bank, if we're in the boat, whatever it is, we need to be able to cast it far enough and fly, right?
Yep.
If you take a bobber dog and float with the flat bottom on it, and you took all the exact same gear that you've been casting 50 yards with, you're going to go about 35 yards roughly with this one because of that flat surface. So that things change based on obviously what you're doing. This thing here though feels like it's almost balsa. It's so hard.
Yeah. So the hydros and the FFTs have the same foam. When you go to the HC floats, they're actually even more dense.
Gotcha.
And the part of that had to do with manufacturing wise, so we could actually make the off-center hole. But it's similar. It's the same idea with the bobber dog and floats. Is they are the least aerodynamic float we cast pretty much.
Totally.
Like they're like, it's like casting a, I don't know, it's a terrible aerodynamic thing to cast.
Well, you don't need to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're bobber dogging, 99% of the time, 90% of the time you're in a boat. You can bobber dog from the bank and be extremely effective, everyone. So don't take this the wrong way. You don't need to be in a boat to bobber dog. But typically in a boat, you're making shorter casts. With these, it doesn't matter. All right, so let's talk about these guys here.
So the hydros. So there's a couple things with the hydros. They're obviously, they don't have this external stem. So this is kind of a take on the older what we call the cigar style floats. These are super sensitive, and these are more for targeting your your bait fishing. So this is why you have the larger sizes. And then the other piece that's important is the length of the float.
Okay.
So longer float means more of the float's in the water, and typically means you have a slower presentation. You're able to kind of slow it down, which when it goes to bait fishing is generally a little more effective because your bait, can be 4, 5, 6, 8 feet below your bobber, and you're trying to get your bait to slow down because the water's pretty slow down at the bottom, especially when you're Chinook fishing. It's pretty slow down there where the fish are. So these floats are really designed for that.
Gotcha.
And then beefed up for the weights, the heavier weights you need for Chinook fishing.
So now you're all the way up to 2 ounces.
All the way up to 2.
Okay. You ever going to make one bigger?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
My suggestion is make up to a 5. Jason, that's just for you. Anyway, you know what's Jason? I'm sure he does. Okay, so right now, summer steelhead fishing is in full swing.
Yep.
It's a bobber and jig show, spinners, maybe some bead stuff. If you were to go summer steelhead fishing right now, what would you be fishing and what float setup would you be doing? What would you be doing? Because you're an avid steelhead angler, like way more than me, unfortunately.
I mean, it depends on the area that I'm, the river that I'm fishing. I think for the bigger tributary rivers that actually kind of have enough flow to kind of continue to bobber dog fishing, this is actually a newer thing for me this summer, is actually we'll now bobber dog through the summer. I know, surprising. For summer steelhead, again, you can cover a lot of water. You really start to, you scale down your offerings. You do use lighter weights, use smaller presentations. But again, if you have the flow, I think you can do pretty well there, and I've done pretty well there.
Bead fishing?
Bead fishing, there's a little bit of bait, a little bit of coon shrimp, those things. But I mean, little egg, yeah. And the benefit of summer steelhead, right, is that they are, fresh summer steelhead will bite a plethora of things. Yes, they're very aggressive fish. So it's pretty much how you want to fish for them. I just like it for the efficiency part of it. Like you can cover a lot of water, and we all know about bobber dog, and like you get to cover water this deep, and you get to cover water this deep, which I love bobber and jig fishing. That's probably my favorite way to do it, but it's sometimes you spend a lot of time adjusting your float to fish those different depths. So
Mike, if you're out there, we still call it fishing a pill, all right, for summer steelhead. I don't care if it's a bead or not, Mike. The Deschutes, fishing a pill. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. I think that's so overlooked, though, for summer steelhead. It's not on very many people's mind to talk about bead fishing or bobber dogging for summer steelhead. It's just that simple. But you make a really good point, and it does make sense. You do get to cover more ground. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Okay, how about for you? From these floats that are sitting over here, over where you live, over on the east side, you got some steelhead options over there. Multiple rivers, really.
Actually, we do. We have several. Yeah.
Would you be fishing bobber and jig? Would you be doing the same thing as Brandon? What would you be doing?
I do a lot of bobber dogging, really.
Okay.
I mean, I've run into plenty of people who tell me some of those rivers it's impossible, and sorry guys, you're not correct on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steelhead eat beads everywhere we go, and Brandon, he loves bobber and jig. I don't.
Okay, I get it.
I mean, it's a personal preference. The bobber and jig's a great bait. I don't like doing it.
All right, I get it. I mean, everybody's got their own personal take on how they want to get stuff done. Some of the rivers on the east side, you can't use soft beads like BnR manufacturers, so just keep that in mind.
Unfortunately.
Yarnies are legal, of course, and you always have hard beads as an option, so make sure you keep that in mind. For certain, though, make sure you go over and take a good look at some of the floats that are available over at Fisherman's, the new ones as well. What were those called again?
The HZs.
HZ.
Stands for horizontal.
Engineers. And when you do so, make sure you pick up some of those things, pick up some of the stick weights. And we got this question when you were last in, because you go all the way up to 1 ounce on the stick weights. Yeah, I mean, you might find some spots where a 1 ounce for a bobber dogging situation might come up. It's really going to be heavy water. It's going to be deep water, and there are situations for that. But if you were to just be in normal circumstances, the quarter, 3/8, half would probably be where I would be sticking. But you have a lot of options. They have them there for you. And, of course, you still have the round ones as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, because there is a huge contingent of folks that want the original Dave's Tangle-Free round ball.
Yep.
Last thing, thanks for coming in, man. It was
Pleasure to be here.
It was nice to meet you. It was nice to see you in the studio.
Thanks a lot.
You and I are going to talk again.
Oh, boy. I can't wait.
He said he's got water. Okay. It's great to see you, buddy.
Thank you, Owen.
Thanks for
Thanks
coming
a lot,
in. Yeah, it was great to see you. So, again, go over, check out the Haxton's website, find out all the information that you might need there for your boat needs, and BnR Tackle you will find at Fisherman's Marine at all of their locations. All of them for now. We'll be back in just a minute to wrap things up.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by BnR Tackle. Check out their new slide locks and trolling bumpers.